Intro/Hook. It's 1946. The war is over, soldiers are coming home, and the small border town of Texarkana, split between Texas and Arkansas, is ready to return to peace. But in the spring of that year, under the light of the moon, a shadow began to move through the quiet streets, a figure who watched from the woods, waited in the dark, and struck without warning. He was called the Phantom Killer. For 10 weeks, he terrorized the town, attacking young couples parked on lonely roads. 5 people were murdered, 3 survived, and the entire city descended into fear. Texarkana locked its doors. People bought guns, boarded windows, and refused to go out at night. And then, just as suddenly as he appeared, the Phantom was gone. No capture. No identity. Just whispers carried on the wind of a town that still calls him the Phantom. The first attack, February 22, 1946. It began like any small-town Friday night. Jimmy Hollis, 25, and his girlfriend Mary Jeanne Larry, 19, drove to a quiet dirt road known locally as Lover's Lane. It was just after midnight when a man in a white cloth mask appeared from the darkness, 2 holes cut out for eyes. He pointed a flashlight and a pistol at them. "I don't want to kill you, fella," he said, "so do what I say." He forced Jimmy to remove his pants and beat him nearly to death with a pistol. Then he turned on Mary Jeanne, assaulting her, taunting her, and leaving her for dead. Miraculously, both survived. They described their attacker as a tall man wearing a white mask, calm and deliberate in his cruelty. It was brutal. But what no one knew was that this was just the beginning. The second attack, March 24, 1946. 4 weeks later, another young couple, Richard Griffin, 29, and Polly Ann Moore, 17, were found dead in their car on a remote Lover's Lane. Richard had been shot twice in the head. Polly Ann's body was partially outside the car. Police found .32 caliber shell casings nearby, the same type used in the first attack. The local sheriff called it the work of a cold-blooded killer. The papers called him the Phantom. The town in fear. By April, Texarkana was in full panic. People nailed sheets over their windows, bought guard dogs, and carried guns wherever they went. Parents forbade their children from going out after dark. Couples stopped parking in cars. The city, usually lively on weekends, became a ghost town after sundown. The press descended, amplifying the terror. Headlines screamed, "Phantom Killer strikes again!" But the killer wasn't finished. The third attack, April 14, 1946. Paul Martin, 16, and Betty Jo Booker, 15, were close friends, both musicians. They attended a dance at the VFW club that night. Betty Jo played saxophone in the band, her last performance. When she didn't come home, her parents panicked. The next morning, Paul's body was found on North Park Road, shot 4 times. 2 miles away, searchers found Betty Jo. She had been shot twice, once in the face. Her saxophone lay beside her in the grass. The brutality and symbolism of the crime shook Texarkana to its core. It wasn't just random violence anymore. It felt ritualistic. The Phantom wasn't hunting for money, revenge, or lust. He was hunting for fear. The final attack, May 3, 1946. The last known attack was different. It happened not to a couple in a car, but to a middle-aged man and his wife, Virgil and Katie Starks, at their farmhouse just outside town. Virgil was sitting in his armchair, listening to the radio. Katie was in bed when she heard 2 gunshots. She ran to the living room and found her husband slumped forward, blood soaking his shirt. Then, 2 bullets shattered the window, hitting her in the face. Bleeding and half blind, she fled through the house, locking doors behind her while the killer tried to break in. She escaped barefoot into the night, collapsing at a neighbor's home. Virgil Starks was dead. Katie survived, but she would never forget the sound of glass breaking and her husband's final breath. The police now had proof that the Phantom wasn't just targeting lovers' lanes. He was watching homes. He was evolving. The investigation Texarkana had never seen anything like it. Local law enforcement was overwhelmed. The Texas Rangers were called in, led by legendary Ranger Manuel Lone Wolf Gonzalez, a man known for his fearlessness and his black Stetson hat. He arrived in town with one chilling statement: "I will find him." Every man, woman, and child in Texarkana is afraid, and they have good reason. Roadblocks were set up, hundreds were interrogated, and curfews were imposed. The Rangers patrolled backroads at night, using themselves as bait, parking cars in secluded spots, waiting for the Phantom to strike again. But he never did. It was as if he had evaporated into thin air. The suspects over the years, dozens of suspects emerged, but none ever proven guilty. 1. Youell Swinney, the most infamous. Swinney was a car thief with a history of violence. When arrested in July 1946, his wife told police he was the Phantom, describing details of the murders not released to the public. But under Texas law, a wife's testimony couldn't be used against her husband. She later recanted, and Swinney was imprisoned for theft, not murder. While he served time, the killing stopped. Coincidence or confirmation? He was never officially charged, and when he died decades later, the case remained open. 2. The soldier theory. Some investigators suspected a returning World War II soldier suffering from trauma, explaining the military-style precision and calm. But with hundreds of servicemen passing through Texarkana after the war, narrowing it down was impossible. 3. The copycat theory. A few detectives believe there might have been 2 killers, one responsible for the Lovers Lane murders, another for the farmhouse shooting. The weapons differed slightly, as did the method. But no concrete link was ever established. The media and the myth. By summer 1946, the Phantom had become more legend than man. Journalists sensationalized every rumor. Gun sales skyrocketed. Theaters refused to show night screenings. Churches held vigils. Texarkana became known as the Town That Dreaded Sundown. Decades later, that name would inspire a horror film, one that blurred truth and fiction so deeply that locals still debate what was real. Some saw the film as exploitation. Others saw it as catharsis, a way to finally confront the fear that once gripped their parents and grandparents. But for those who lived through it, the memory of those nights never faded. Theories that endure even after 75 years, the Phantom Killer remains a puzzle with missing pieces. Was Youell Swinney the real Phantom? Many Rangers believed so until their deaths. His pattern of thefts aligned perfectly with the killings. Was it someone in law enforcement? Some locals whispered that the killer's ability to evade roadblocks meant he knew police tactics. Was it multiple killers? The weapon calibers varied between attacks, suggesting either an evolving murderer or more than one participant. But the biggest mystery of all remains: why did he stop? Serial killers rarely quit. Yet after May 1946, there were no more Phantom attacks. No confessions, no letters, no sightings. Just silence. Reflection/closing. Today, Texarkana looks like any quiet southern town. Neat houses, old storefronts, families who lock their doors but don't think twice about the past. But every year, around spring, the fear returns. Locals remember. At the town's annual film screening of the Town That Dreaded Sundown, they gather under the stars where it all began, on the same moonlit night, in the same quiet park, watching the story of a killer who was never caught. And somewhere out there, perhaps in an unmarked grave, perhaps in an old photograph, perhaps in a family secret passed down quietly over generations, the truth still waits. The Phantom Killer of Texarkana. The man who vanished into legend and left behind a town that still dreads sundown. This is Silent Shrouds, where the truth hides in the dark and the shadows never forget.